Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a very exciting topic, which is synchronizing tempo and play timers. May sound incredibly vague, I totally understand, but I'm going to do my best to explain it clearly. This has been a topic that has been coming up in my coaching recently a lot, and I've had one coaching session with specific clients and they've just shot up 400 LP instantly. By applying this concept. So I really urge you guys to watch this entire video because I'm going to be explaining the concept step by step and how you can eventually apply this in your own games. So check it out fully. And finally, if you guys want to be getting coached by me, the link to the MLA is going to be in the description. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, let's break some stuff down here. We're going to start off with play timers. What are play timers? Well, very simply put, this is the time of when a play happens, aka when the play happens. This is also how I'm going to be referring towards this moving forward in the video. But before we understand when a play happens, right, we have to preemptively assess what the play is. Not only do we have to assess what the play is, but also where the play is and where your team is, and also why we want to be playing right there. And our goal is to understand these three questions so we can then make a good decision on the when. We're going to be starting off with breaking down the what and with lull stage usage. This may be a concept that you guys are aware of, but maybe also a concept that you guys have no clue what I'm talking about. Lull states are the downtimes in the game. aka when you're resetting, whenever you're walking from lane to lane, whenever you're in shop, whenever you're dead. These are situations in the game that you can use to think and use your brain in the game. Yes, guys, we need to think in League of Legends if we want to be making the right decisions. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this time to press tab, take up all of the information that the game has to provide us, and then we're going to be asking ourselves these three questions. We're going to mainly focus on the what and the where today, because the why is going to be a little bit more tricky, and this comes with game understanding and getting better at the game. The why is also a concept that you don't really have to stress about if you are below diamond, because that can sometimes get a little bit more complicated. Once again, game understanding is the core factor of understanding this. So before we can look at the when, we have to understand what is the next objective that we want to be fighting for. We have to be gathering all of the information, and we can then check what the play is and figure out where we want to be playing. We also have to understand, like, where is my team, right? If your Rengar is clearing towards bot side, right, and he's currently on the Gromp, you cannot restart like the Grubs right now. Right? If your bot lane is 5-0 and your top lane is 0-5, right, the next objective is most likely going to be playing around bot side because you don't really want to be interacting with that 5-0 Darius on the top side. These are all things that you have to figure out in the lull stage to understand where you also want to be playing and where your team is at. So we can then take a look at when the play happens. I've got a very nice example lined up for you guys, which I'm going to be explaining very clearly how I'm going to be approaching that. So in this example, I'm going to be walking you guys through my thought process. First of all, we are in a lull state right now. We have just reset. We are now opening up from base. What are the things that we see? Overall, the game is going pretty well. Like, we're doing quite nice on all of the lanes. We're in a good position to translate our lead. So what we want to do right now is we want to translate our lead. And the best way to do that for us is through neutral objectives. If you're ahead like this, fighting fair fights is advantage for you. You just want to make sure that you don't get yourself in number disadvantageous positions. So I recognize very nicely that since we are ahead, right, it's very simple to just pick the objective. What is the next objective that we want to be playing for? So the what in this case is going to be the Infernal Dragon in 40 seconds. Now we're going to also be asking ourselves the question, where's my team? Is my team able to play for this? Absolutely. Rengar is resetting right now. Team is opening up from base together with me. Aurelia is also playing on the same side. So that means that the dragon is definitely playable. For this example, I'm also going to be covering the why. I'm not necessarily going to be covering that for the other examples because it's not that important. But for this one, also the why. Why is it so important for us to play around the dragon right now? Well, as I said, it's a way for us to translate our lead. We are ahead. We want to fight. Our win condition in this case is also skirmishing at this point. And we can utilize this next neutral objective as a fight magnet to draw the enemies in and potentially get a fight rolling in which we can just translate our lead and snowball the game from. So we have now discussed what, the where, and the why. We're now going to talk about the when. Very simple. The when is 44 seconds. But if it would always be that easy, right, then of course everyone could be able to do this, right? But we've utilized our lull states to understand that the dragon is going to be spawning in 44 seconds. So the when in this case is going to be the final mid lane wave before the next neutral objective. Why is the final mid lane wave before the next neutral objective so important? It's because if you can get push onto that mid lane wave, what's going to happen is then the enemies are forced to respond to that mid lane wave. And while they are responding, you create a temporary man advantage that's going to allow you to walk into the bot side and make sure that you can get vision control. And vision control is going to make sure that you're going to be controlling the area, controlling the space. And if you can control the area and the space, it's going to be very hard for the enemies to walk in without taking a little bit of damage or putting themselves in a vulnerable position. That's why the space control of and the area control around the dragon is going to be super, super important. So we are going to be planning to get mid priority onto not this mid lane wave, because this one's not the final one, but the next mid lane wave is going to be super important for us to going to be fighting priority on. If we can get that, we can get the control, and that means we can make the play around the next neutral objective. So initially, you already see that I am now gathering information in this lull state. I am now thinking, okay, what's the plan? I've been pinging this towards my team as well to make everyone clear that we're going to be playing onto this dragon for sure. So initially, I'm like walking top. Oh, I would love to get that wave, like this extra gold. There's a cannon right there. It just feels good to get that wave. But then I recognize, bam, when does the play happen? It happens on the next mid lane wave. Does that mean that I can go top? No, I don't have time to go top. So I recognize, hey, I have to actually go through mid because we want to be playing onto the next mid lane wave. We're going to be taking this one reactively, and then we're going to be pushing out the next one, setting up vision control, and be in a good position. So what we are seeing, given this particular situation, is that I am not the only one that has this plan. This is a GM level game right here. So the enemies also know that the control of this next mid lane wave is going to be very deciding depending upon this next neutral objective. That's why LeBlanc's here and not on bot or on top, because she wants to control the space and chunk us if we're going to try to regain this space. Very smart play by LeBlanc. Nothing to say against. So I know that there's going to be now a fight for the control around this area. What would have happened if I would have been top? Right here, I would have now been right here or right here, going to be answering the minions real soon. We would lose control of the next objective because I'm too late in this case. Because you see that the enemies are already positioning in such a way that if I'm not here, these two guys are super vulnerable, and it's also really hard for Rengar and Irelia to just move up here and just create the space for the team. So I recognize that a fight's going to happen, and I instantly am able to strike, right here, so that all of the enemies are fighting for this mid wave. It's such a beautiful example. But because I'm early here, we spot out an enemy mistake. I get a triple stun into a beautiful R, nuking the LeBlanc, and instantly putting this game into a position where we now get this massive, massive pick. And I'm pretty sure we just instantly win the game from this point. So we're right there on the win, which instantly allows us to ace the enemies and win the game of it. If I would be top, what would happen more likely than not is that my team would try to contest the space for the next neutral objective. I would be late. I would still have to TP in. There's no good TP wards because we didn't have the control. And that means that we would not be able to fight the dragon. Matter of fact, this would have been an opportunity for the enemies to kill my team and actually get back into the game. So by me recognizing when the play was happening, I was able to be there on time and make the play. Really good example. So for the next example, very similar situation. In this case, we recognize that we are slightly behind as a team. Besides that, Drakes are pretty even. And if we look at what's happening right now, what's the next objective? Well, we currently see that the next objective is going to be the Baron, because the Baron is currently live, and afterwards we got ourselves the Dragon. These are very important timers. So with knowing this, guys, right, what the next objective is, right, what we're going to be seeing is where we got to go. Since the Baron is currently live, any single pick around mid lane means that this can instantly turn into a Baron, we also do not have proper vision control. So if you're going to be scanning through what's happening on the map right now, we see that Akali's shoving a big fat wave into his own bot lane. It's not there just yet. Big fat wave right here, which eventually someone has to answer to. And Ezreal's now grabbing up mid prio. So this is looking like a very dire situation for us. What would be a thing that you can do is you can now go bot, clear the bot lane wave first, then move mid. But what's going to happen is that now Akali's going to get a move timer towards mid, or she's going to push a wave and then move to mid. And what's going to happen is they're going to get full control, and it's going to be really hard for us to play. Why? If you look at my team, there's going to be very little hard engage on our team. We need to control the area. This is a control match specific thing as well. If you're not first, you will suffer because you need to control the area, control the space. Otherwise, it's very hard for you to land your abilities. So what I do is I just do not care about the bot lane wave at the moment. And I recognize I need to move mid lane right now. I can't really side. I put it in my versus my team right here. So what I do is I'm going to grab a mid lane priority together with the boys, which is then going to allow us to take control around the Baron area. And if now we get a single pick, what happens is that we can start off the Baron. If Akali stays bot, no problem. We'll just start the Baron, bait out her TP, if she has it. I'm not sure if she has it. And then just back off. And once again, we're going to be fighting for the control. But in this case, Shen can actually go bot because Shen doesn't really care about the win because he can always just ult in. That's a very unique thing. And because we get up the mid lane control right here, what happens is that we can now contest the next mid lane wave. We recognize that a single pick will instantly result into Baron. So we open up for the fight right here. I catch up Ezreal from the Fog of War. We get a fantastic little skirmish happening. Even though Shen wasn't even ready to play right now because of the fact that he didn't have R. But we get ourselves a beautiful fight. Shen ults in. We get the kills. And this allows us to take the Baron. So after taking the Baron, we're now going to reset. We're checking the map already instantly. What is the next objective? It's the dragon. It's the Cloud Dragon. So where are we going to go? We're going to open up towards mid. Because we need to get the mid prio before the next objective. Otherwise, we will not get the vision control. You see that right now we're fighting for this control right here. We're forced to respond ourselves towards the wave. You see that the Nautilus and the Ezreal try to regain some control, but because we're all so many people in mid and the enemies weren't able to responding towards the rest of us yet, we can now keep this control and make it hard for them to regain it back. So as you can see, we now keep up the control. I keep up the mid priority, and because we get this control, it's very hard for the enemies to now contest this, and we got ourselves the next objective for free. So now we're going to get into the weeds of it. Now it's going to get complicated, because these were easy examples, very straightforward examples that I showed you guys, but we all know solo queue is chaotic. It doesn't always go the way that you want, and there's also random plays happening, which you got to constantly assess your own when towards, and that's very hard. So for that, we have ourselves now the syncing up tempo tool, the synchronizing tempo, and we use the ACE framework for that. The ACE framework is a tool that we can utilize given these situations and break them down, not only in game, but also in the review. So what is the ACE framework? The A stands for acknowledging the best play, aka what are we playing for? What is the play? Then we are also going to be, and also the why a little bit, right? But the why is not really what we're going to be covering anymore. Then we're going to be talking about the C, the communication. A, C, E, ACE framework. C stands for communication. And this also means what are we playing for and when. So in that case, we can, for example, ping the next objective and recognize that's what we're playing for. And that's what we're going to be playing on at that specific time. One tip, bonus tip, Tim's bonus tip is I want you guys to understand that if you want to be playing for a specific objective, the final wave before the next neutral objective is usually what you want to be playing for on mid. And a very OP tip what you can do to make your team understand is ping push on the particular mid lane wave that you want to have priority on. Very important tool. And E stands for embracing reality. So what happens a lot is that you communicate the right play towards your team, you know what the right play is, and then the team still does something else. Sometimes we have to adapt ourselves, and it doesn't always go to perfection, and we have to change stuff from our own, what we ideally want to do, to still synchronize tempo together with the rest of the team, so to make the game work. So sometimes we have to drop some waves or something like that. I understand it can get a little bit fake. So I got ourselves a beautiful example in which I'm going to be perfectly explaining this tempo syncing tool. All right, so in this example, we see that the game state is generally even. It's a pretty even game state. We're 8 and 8 on the kill score. We see some item completions left and right. Vladimir also has his item. He's currently in base, so we don't spot that. And we also recognize that because of this even game state, the next fight is probably going to be deciding on who's going to be getting ahead in this particular game. We also recognize that given this position, we all want to be fighting for the next Herald, because if we can get that Herald, that's always amazing, right? That's going to allow you to translate the lead and snowball through the game. So we all know that Herald's going to be the next objective. So what's the next objective? It's Herald. It's going to be coming up in 40 seconds right here on top side. So in an ideal world, what happens is that we get priority, not on this mid lane wave, but on the next mid lane wave before the objective. So we can then play mid into the objective right here. So what's going to be happening is that there's going to be pings in the map that the Rift Herald is what we want to be playing for, right? I need to be a little bit careful right now because my team is coming up from a reset. I do not have full priority, and I want to be very careful with hard pushing this wave because I do not want my wave to get stuck on the enemy side. So I know that the play is happening in 40 seconds, not right now. So priority on this wave doesn't do anything. Matter of fact, Vladimir can hold the wave if I hard push this, and he can then get prio onto the next mid lane wave if he holds it, because I cannot overstep that much. So it's really important that I don't hard push that wave, or I might mess up the next play. So what happens right here is that we all recognize that the play is happening, and that this next mid lane wave is super, super important. But right, what happens is that, yes, I get myself some vision control, but my Rel is now top, and Naafiri is clearing towards top. So I'm now in this position where I cannot really play right now. I cannot really play for push. I cannot really play because I have no cover. And we see that the Viego is around mid here. We see that the Janna is around mid here, and they're now getting mid prio for this next play. And what we see is that I therefore am in a position where I struggle right now. I struggle to make the play right now because of the fact that my team wasn't instantly starting the Rift. My team was making a play on top first before starting the Rift. And that means that it also didn't really make sense for me to sacrifice the wave and move over there because of the fact that, the team's not starting the Rift just yet. They're going for a play on top. So this is really, really awkward for me. And this is where the ACE framework really comes into play. Because there's a few things that I can do. I can now decide to either, adapt, change the tempo of the play myself by proper communication. Or what I do is that I decide to embrace reality and adapt myself. In this situation, I decide to not adapt because of the fact that I recognize that the play can be stalled a little bit longer than it just instantly being explosive. Why? We have an Enchanter support on the enemy team. We have a Vladimir. There's very little engage on the enemy team. So I'm pretty sure that we can stall the play if we want. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing right here. Right? I'm going to be struggling to instantly move in, and I recognize that the enemies didn't start the Rift. So what I'll do is I'll slightly move up, I'll hover, I'll check, but what I recognize is I can now delay the timer of the play. And this is where it gets interesting. And the way that I'm going to delay the timer of the play is by pinging my team back right here. Retreat, 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 right? Because it's really hard for me to move up right here and play right now because of the fact that I'm going to be split off from my team, and I'm going to be coming in from a flank position in a control match. That's ridiculous. You cannot do that. You want a front-to-back team fight where you're first. So we see that the enemies cannot do the Rift Herald, and I see that the next mid lane wave has already been colliding. So what I do is I move to mid to now force myself a priority onto the next mid lane wave, delaying the play by an extra wave. And what that does is that now I force the enemies to respond to me. So I'm going to be actually moving up here, and I see I'm pinging on mid T1 right here. Because what I can also do is just push the wave and just go back towards and just yawn at the enemy champions right there. Possible, absolutely possible. But what I want to do is I want them to respond to me so I can create this temporary man advantage and get into a good position for the fight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the turret right here. And you see that I see that the enemies are now moving to mid. So I stop hitting the turret. And I now recognize that the enemies are trying to respond to this wave, respond to this play. And now, while they are responding, I see that the enemies are now caught up, and we now have primary position for this particular fight, getting ourselves this beautiful, beautiful pick onto the Jace and onto the Yana by me drawing pressure, forcing the enemies to respond, and this shows the power of not only the priority of mid lane wave and forcing the enemies to respond, but also the possibility of delaying tempo by proper communication and not playing right here. So, really good example. We got in the same clip a little bit earlier, we got a different example of where we're not delaying the play by communication or calling off the play, but we are now adapting ourselves by embracing reality. So, in this situation, we see that my Naafiri wants to invade the enemy Raptors. Great job by her, right? Awesome. If we can do that, fantastic. But look at that, Viego's already contesting, right? If Viego's got the Raptors already, Viego's a bit stronger than Naafiri at the moment. You see it in the items, right? I mean, in the levels right here. Also the items, actually. So what we see happening on the minimap right now is that there's going to be a contention around the Scuttle Crab. We also know that Jace is dead and Rumble's resetting. So these two guys are off the map right now. So what I'm going through in my mind right now is, okay, can we delay the play? Because I kind of want to answer this mid lane wave right now. I was off a reset right here, and this mid lane wave is getting pushed into me. And I recognize that I cannot. Why? Because the Scuttle is spawning right now, and there's a play happening right now on the Scuttle. So I decide to embrace reality, give up my own wave right here, and decide to go in together with my Rell and my Naafiri onto the Viego, because the play is happening right now. Not in 10 seconds, not in 15 seconds, it's happening right now. So I have to move if I want to play. Conversely, I can also decide, give up the Scuttle, I'm pushing mid, we're not playing here. But I feel comfortable to play because my Rell's around right here. So what happens is that we play the play, Naafiri feels confident to go in, I wait out the Viego flash and have this beautiful invisible stun for him, which then allows us to get the pick and the shutdown onto Viego. This Viego is Kirai, by the way. Really good player. Very nice guy. Good content creator as well. Check him out if you guys get the chance. And we got ourselves this beautiful pick onto the Viego. I dropped the wave for that, but we did get the Scuttle, and we did get ourselves the pick onto the Viego, which is super worth in my opinion. So I decide to sync up tempo together with my team right here, with the Viego, with the Naafiri, with the Rell, to make the play happen right now, instead of me taking my wave first. And recognizing when you gotta do which is going to be a lot of game sense and understanding about when you want to be playing, when you do not want to be playing. I felt comfortable playing with because I knew that I could win it. There's also going to be situations where you're going to play this and you're going to lose this. Great learning experience. The most important thing, guys, is that you acknowledge what you want to be playing for and that you actually just make a decision and go for it. Because if you're the one that makes the decision, you can eventually go back into the review and figure out why this decision worked out or why it didn't work out. And even if you made the messing up play, you're going to be the one learning from it. So, we've covered a lot of different topics today. We've covered the play timers, when the play exactly happens, recognizing when it happens, and also how we can actually adapt ourselves by either delaying the play or actually playing on the specific timer, depending on if we want to play it or not. Of course, there's like 1 million different layers below that on how team comps interact, how your win conditions interact, where everyone is on the map, right? And there's so much information gathering going on. But the most important tip that I would give you, if you guys struggle with this concept, or you still struggle understanding what I'm exactly talking about, my tip towards you guys would be, try to play at the same time that your team is playing. If your team is playing right now, right, adapt a little bit and play with them. If your team is playing later, right, adapt a little bit and play with them. And if you absolutely don't want the play to happen, make sure that you communicate properly so that you at least let know towards your team that you want to delay the play by a specific amount so they can adapt themselves towards you. And if you guys are going to be adapting towards each other, that's when the games are going to feel incredibly smooth. And this is really what's going to make the games go well, right? This is why my clients have been winning games, because they are actively recognizing right now that playing with a team in a 5v5 game is heavily OP. If you play with your teammates, your chances of winning are just going to be so much higher because the game is not 1v9 oriented. And that's one thing to keep in mind. So these were these are the concepts explained, right? These are good examples showcasing what it all means. If you guys want to get specific and you guys want me to take a look at your clips and your examples and help you guys break some of your plays down well, feel free to take a look at the coaching platform in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a lot. Really exciting topic, and I'll see you guys real soon with a new video.